Crazy. Come on. Come on, Vishy. Make a move.
Make a move.
Madness. Come on.
This is unbelievable.
Hello and welcome, David here from Bronze Serpent Chess. Today we're going to be rolling back the years, all the way back to 1994, and we're going to be looking at a classic matchup between Vishy Anand and the Belarusian Grandmaster Ilya Smirin, very strong Grandmaster. This game is pretty interesting because it's an Armageddon game, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, but if you don't know what an Armageddon game is, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so what Armageddon actually means is that the player with the white pieces, Smirin in this instance, gets 1 extra minute on the clock. So it was a 5-minute blitz game, now he gets 6 minutes and the advantage of playing first with the white pieces, but he has to win. He can't draw. If he draws, then Anand will win. So let's take a look at this insane game.
So it's all down to this game. Smirin opens with his favorite e4 move, and Anand playing symmetrically for the moment. Smirin lashing out with his pawn.
So this is a typical opening that Anand uses. He's used it in many big-time competitions. He's won a lot of games with it. And now, just playing quickly, all he needs to do is draw, and he'll move on to the next round. Kasparov awaits the winner.
So that's a slight surprise. Anand thinking about this move.
This is where things start to get really, really weird in this game. We have the Petrov defense, very symmetrical type opening. And while the Petrov defense wasn't wildly popular at the time, people knew the main lines. This was far from uncharted territory, but for some reason, which we'll discuss in a bit, Anand completely freezes.
I think this is unbelievable. He's almost spent a minute, 20% of his time.
You know, while we wait, why not on% the subscribe button, help get me to 250 subscribers. I really appreciate it.
Crazy. Come on. Come on, Vishy. Make a move.
Make a move.
Madness. Come on.
This is unbelievable. This is shocking.
1 minute and 43 seconds. That's how long it took Vishy to play d6. Let's take a look at what he was thinking about. Right, so here's the position. Why does Vishy spend 1 minute and 43 seconds to play d6? I think that he was worried if he plays d6, is it possible that Smirin can play the hyper-aggressive knight takes f7? What? So your first instinct might be to take back with the black king, but would you believe it? That is not the best move for black. Why? Because white can follow up with queen to h5 check, and if you're ranked like 300 or 400 elo, or me, after a few drinks, you might play something like king to g8, but this is utterly disastrous. Why? Because you're just getting mated, so you don't want to play that. Instead, maybe you say, okay, I'm going to block, play something like g6. I can still play queen to d5, attacking the king and the knight at the same time. And now you can see after you move, if I pick up the knight, white is just up a pawn and black can't castle. So instead, here you might think, okay, I'm going to play king to e7, but now I can follow up with queen to e2, highlighting this pin on the black knight, and eventually pushing f3 and picking up the knight. Remember, if you have a piece that is pinned and you can attack it with a pawn, that's usually good news. If you played this with the black pieces, this would be catastrophic. Why? Because then I can follow up with bishop to g5, and you can't take with the knights because the knight, of course, is pinned. So this, generally speaking, is just bad news for black. Black does not want to take this knight. Instead, what should you play? Queen to e2. And if white is very greedy and tries to snap up the rook, well, you have a discovery coming. Discovery on the white king, and you're also attacking the queen at the same time. You have to block, and now white is just down a queen, which is bad news. So to avoid this, there is like a little in-between move. After queen to e7, you can throw in a check and block. And then since this knight is going to go down swinging one way or another, you can actually just pick up the pawn. After takes back, the discovery is revealed, and that gives you a moment just to bring the bishop back to safety and hopefully get in a castle. But in this position, Anand is up a pawn and he can still castle. So I think Anand was going through a bunch of lines that we just looked at now to find this position where he says, actually, this is objectively better for black. I don't have to worry about knight takes f7. Let's take a look at the rest of the game. After all those calculations, Smirin instead doesn't take on f7. He just retreats his knight and the game continues.
He's pushed his pawn up, and now he's beginning to play a little bit quicker. The bishop attacking, and now his knight has come out into the game, and now he's speeding up. The king is castled.
So this is a fairly well-known position, but Anand has used almost 2 minutes to get there. I just don't know what he was doing. So he's played this way before.
So after some really solid moves by both players in the opening and middle game, we arrive at the first critical juncture. Here, Anand plays f6, attacking the knight on e5. And instead of retreating the knight, Smirin plays queen takes b7. So what's the idea here? After takes, we're putting a lot of pressure on the knight on d5. And of course, the knight can't move because it's pinned by the bishop. So the knight really needs to be defended. And if you're really blunder prone like me, might play something like e6, but of course that's not going to work. But there is another way that you can defend that does work, playing the move that Vishy played, bishop to e4. And I think Smirin even saw this, but thought he could refute bishop to e4 by playing f3. So now the bishop's under fire. You might think, oh, I need to move the bishop, but that really doesn't work because of course you're losing a truck ton of material. So you don't want to move the bishop, even though it seems like it's hanging for the time being. There is a move that allows you to escape unscathed, and that is king to h8. And now if I want to take the bishop, actually black can just respond by taking my bishop. So this would be the path forward. And I think Smirin saw this after Vishy played bishop to e4. So instead of playing f3, he decided to just pick up the material and take on e5. All right, back to the game.
He's taken, oh, this is fantastic. He's taken this pawn, he's sacrificing a piece. And now
Smirin has collected another pawn. It seems as if he thought he was going to win this knight, but Anand has defended it quite simply with this bishop move, and maybe Smirin is going to be down a piece.
Okay, but Smirin has 2 pawns for this piece, and he's now got a third. So he has 3 pawns for the piece. That's compensation itself.
I can't help but think, though, that Anand up a piece is a lot more confident. He's starting to move like his old self. He's gotten the challenge, and he's going to try to meet it, moving much quicker, moving his king now up that dangerous, deadly diagonal. He's put it in the corner, hiding it, and he has a piece. But as you said, Danny, 3 pawns for it is what White has.
Yeah, but I mean, I would prefer White's position here.
Another really important moment in this game is when Smirin plays bishop to d4. And here, Anand actually had a winning move, but he missed it. Instead, he plays rook to c8. Instead, he needed to play knight takes on c3, and this would have really ended the game on the spot. You're attacking the queen, and you're also attacking this hanging bishop at the same time, and there's no way of defending both. Can't move here, can't move here, can't really move anywhere where you're going to be able to hold the bishop on d4. In fact, the engine thinks it's so dire, you just got to give up your queen. And while Anand doesn't find this move, he still has an advantage with the rook on c8.
Definitely. And at least Anand has something to go for now. It's fairly clear where his chances lie. So he's down on time, but he's got something to play for now.
He's whipping off moves. There's suddenly a pause in the situation. Look at Smirin's bishop. Despite being a piece down, he has some healthy bishops sitting in the middle of the board, and he's attacking a pawn, and Anand has ignored it. This is why they call this a shootout. Both sides' guns come out blazing, and now making sure that no attack happens. And Anand has sacrificed the bishop in the middle, but of course he would gain that queen.
Here Anand finds an absolutely masterful way of simplifying the position. Remember, he's up a full piece. He wants to magnify the strength of that piece. Even though his opponent has some pawns as compensation, if he can clear the board, he'll have a real advantage going into the endgame. So to achieve this, he sacrifices the exchange temporarily. After queen takes back on c4, he throws in this fork. And after the queen moves to c6, yes, he can capture on f1, but he wants even more material. So he's going to play knight to e2. The king has to move to h1. If the king decides for some reason to move to f2, there is a huge problem with that move because you can't take back with a c-pawn because you're getting mated. So to avoid this, Smirin plays the correct move to h1, and Anand just trades off all this material, and now he's got a real edge going into the endgame.
And he's up a piece, and Danny, this is like a quick turnaround, and Anand is just up a piece.
Okay, he's up a piece, but he's taken a pawn. Fantastic.
And he sacrificed his queen.
Okay, it is a crazy looking move, but if you do take on f5, of course you're getting back rank mated.
Unbelievable sacrifice. Anand showing his form.
So, at the start of this, Smirin had 3 pawns for the piece. Now he's only got 1. Vishy has a clearly winning position here.
Oh.
The only problem is time. He has about a minute and a half to try and win this game.
But of course, for Anand, that is plenty of time to win this game. The queens are off the board. There are very few threats. All he has to do now is use his material advantage to put the hammer down. And after picking up a few of White's pawns, he is in the driver's seat and his opponent resigns. What an incredible game. After being so far down in the opening on time, after just move 4, he was able to bring it back and win the game. Guys, if you enjoyed watching this, please do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, everyone.